Shavua Tov, everyone. It is currently 10 p.m. on Saturday, the 19th of February. This week's Torah portion is Parshat Trumah. Trumah, meaning tithes, essentially recounts the rules, methods, and history of the contribution process towards the Holy Tabernacle. The tabernacle, or in Hebrew, the Mishkan, was a temporary place of worship during the Jews' time in the desert. The Mishkan also served as a temporary dwelling place for the divine presence, or in Hebrew, the Shekhinah. In one of the commandments regarding the construction of the Mishkan, God instructs the nation to build boards of cedar wood. Now, the amount of cedar wood needed to fulfill this divine command was not negligible. A significant amount of cedar wood was needed in order to construct these boards. Therefore, the obvious question then arises: where did the Jews get this vast amount of lumber in the desert? Bear in mind, the Jews had just left Egypt in a blaze of glory. They took with them gold, silver, and expensive materials. However, during the Exodus, do you really think they would decide to carry logs of cedar trees? Furthermore, the Torah tells us that the Jews left in a hurry. I'm no expert on escaping a 210-year servitude, but if one is leaving in a hurry, do you not think that they would take diamonds, gold, coins, and small objects of value rather than lumps of wood? Now, as I mentioned in my introductory episode to my channel, where I'll link over here, there are many ways to understand ideas in Judaism. There are many answers to the aforementioned question. For instance, the Jews could have bought these trees from traveling merchants. However, in this video I will cover the explanation according to the Hasidic perspective. So, according to Rabbi Shlomo Yitzchaki, otherwise known as Rashi, the Jews did in fact gather the cedar wood back in Egypt and take it out with them during the Exodus. This explanation needs clarification. As I mentioned before, why would they take wood in place of gold and silver? To fully understand this idea, we must go back 210 years before the whole Exodus. The patriarch Jacob, or in Hebrew Yaakov Avinu, was able to prophesy about the future. He foresaw that the Jews will be commanded in the future to build a dwelling place for the divine presence out of cedar wood. He therefore bought cedar trees from the Holy Land and planted them in Egypt. The prophecy was handed down from Yaakov to his sons and from their sons to the next generation. Now we understand how the Jews knew to take the cedar trees with them. However, there is one issue with this explanation that still requires clarification. When Yaakov received his prophecy, why is it that he decided to take the trouble to plant cedar trees taken all the way from the Holy Land? Why not simply pass on an oral tradition of the prophecy and have the Jews buy the cedar wood from traveling merchants? There is clearly a deeper reason for the planting of these trees. The planting of the cedar trees served a double purpose. The first one, which we covered, was in order to provide the resources for the construction of the Mishkan. The second reason was to give the Jewish nation hope. The Jews were enslaved for generations. We are told the Jews kept their Jewish names, their unique traditional clothing, as well as their language. Now, instead of committing to becoming a slave race owned by their Egyptian masters, the Jews had hope that one day they will be an independent people with national sovereignty. The cedar trees were used as a symbol of hope. A Jew may be beaten down physically and mentally, but their spirit was never broken. They would gaze up at the cedar trees and remember the promise of salvation that was told to them by their parents in an unbroken chain from Yaakov, who planted the trees. This explanation helps us find some comfort in the current state of exile the world has found itself in. The term exile is a small word to describe a big concept. Exile, or golus in Hebrew, is the state of the world when God's presence is not dwelling and openly revealed in the world. This creates a facade masking the true workings of the world. This facade itself is pain, suffering, sin, and evil. We live in a world where we feel these ideas more intensely than good, joy, and godliness. This is backwards. The world is God's garden, and anything that is antithetical to good is fake, as God is good. We have been in this state of golus for many generations, and the Jews have suffered immensely, yet we Jews still keep the same names, cultural clothing, and language that we had long ago. So, what is keeping the hope alive within us? Why do we not submit to the state of Golus, the modern equivalent to the Egyptian exile? Because we too have cedar trees. In every generation, God gives us holy sages, sometimes called rabbis, rebbeim, or tzadikim. And in every generation, they enhance our lives, teach us new insights in Torah, and draw the Jews closer to God. In every generation, these sages keep the idea of redemption, or geula, fresh in our mind. This way, we never give up hope. Thanks for watching, guys. Next week, I have an awesome insight on the Parsha to share with you, so click the bell button to receive notifications when I post. Wishing you all a good, purposeful week. See you next time.